Welcome back to another SuperCoach video with me, JD. You're joining me for the first video of the 2024 season. I don't know about you, I had a pretty good break. Definitely ate too much. So good to be back this week into the gym, running, all that type of stuff. So getting into my preseason, and so are the players too. And that makes it the perfect time to put together our preseason list of players that we're going to watch. And I have somewhat accidentally done this in a way that I didn't really intend, but I think at the start of the year, I put out on Twitter basically a competition for those who followed me to get a Mora's Magic preseason guide, which is great information, lots of handy stuff in there. But as part of that, I asked who your smoky for the year was. Who was the preseason pick that you had your eye on? And there's lots of answers in here. Of lots of different players, and I think makes for a great list for us to keep an eye on, because if these players start getting mentioned more and more throughout the preseason training reports we'll see over the next month or two, then they should be bumped up and considered for your sides. So we're going to go through this list now just to share some of the answers that we got, and talk through any of them, what we're thinking so far, and we'll go from them. Some of them I have done a bit of research into already, some I haven't. So yeah, it's just going to be a bit of a free chat on them. What are some things we might be looking for them to pan out as picks and all that type of stuff. So let's saddle up. And for those fantasy players, I mean, I think this list will probably broadly be applicable to that as well, and the reasons why that they would improve would be same, but obviously a little bit different to SuperCoach. Okay, so first up, we got the man himself, Klopp, force of positivity on Twitter, throwing out the Matty Rao, which I don't mind at all. Obviously, the tricky thing here is figuring out what Gold Coast is going to do with Hardwick at the helm, how that changes things, what roles they're going to play. I can't imagine that they move him away from being that 80% CBA mid, which is what we've seen in the last couple of years. It's clearly his best spot. The thing that's been positive with Rao in the preseason talk so far is that he's improved his running capacity. He's been working on that. So one of the things we've noted for him over the last couple of seasons since his injuries is that outside game really wasn't there. So relying completely on the contested work, completely on the tackle numbers, which is good, but it definitely caps your upside. So Rao is one that could break out past that potentially. And then challenges here is obviously he shares that early bye with both Flanders and Miller, who's potentially a value option. So we need to see some good things out of him in the preseason, but Rao is one for the list. Tom Sparrow, Free Kick Liam, who shout out like the free kick pod for AFLW is goated. Helped me win get my top 6 finish this year. Actually, it reminds me, I think I got a voucher for the AFL store to spend. If you've got any hot tips on what to get from an AFL store for $100, let me know. Otherwise, I'll probably just go towards a jersey or some Essendon apparel, which, I mean, some of you may call that a waste, but I guess following the Essendon the last 20 years has been a waste. So really, just doubling down at this point. But anyway, Tom Sparrow, look, obviously with Oliver out, have to follow what happens with him, but there's going to be opportunities for them to rejig that team. Jordan's out of the side now as well. He's moved on. Harms has gone too. So definitely some opportunity. I think Rivers is probably the one that gets it based on what we saw from last year, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with Sparrow. So he can definitely go on the list. Toby Conway, I feel like I'm going to actually have to look up who Toby Conway is. Is this the ruck for Geelong? Oh, it is. Okay, I have read a bit about Toby Conway. We should be going through the prices of these guys. So where's Rao priced at? 572k. So he's actually pretty expensive. We did a 102 last year. Wow. So yeah, I think I'm going to struggle to start with him as a pick, but he could go 110 if he does get that outside game. He could even go better than that. If you watched his first handful of rookie games, he looked like he could be the best player in the competition, to be honest. And Sparrow, where's he priced at? He should be a mid only, I'm guessing, which makes it hard. Awkward price point at 375, but one to think about. I mean, if you were considering others like Sheldrick, which he might come up, then maybe Sparrow's in that list too. So Conway, 180k ruck. He's one that I'm monitoring as someone that I'd start at R3 this year. There's a chance that there's a changing of the guard at the category, and he's one that the preseason reports have been pretty big on so far. So definitely a good idea to have that name in your list. Arlo here, who ended up actually being the winner of the competition, had Alex Witherden, which I don't know about. I don't know, man. 472k. So he's priced at 85. There's definitely upside of that price as a value keeper. We'd been talking about for ages that once Hearn retires, Witherden could be someone that ends up being a really good selection, especially with West Coast not being particularly good, kick out opportunity. But I have a feeling Witherden had a long stretch for that Hearn at the back end of last year and wasn't particularly good. So let's just quickly check out those numbers. Oh, okay, so teammate with Hearn, he put up a 78 on 12 games, and without Hearn, he put up 93 on 10 games. So like a little bit of upside there, I guess, but not a ton. It's actually, I mean, he obviously took more kick-ins, about double the kick-ins without Hearn on the side. But he hasn't been particularly good. So hold on, where's he priced at? Priced at 85. I mean, going up to mid 90s probably isn't enough. The defense looks pretty stacked this year. I could see multiple guys going 105 plus again. What we had 6 last year. Probably more if you consider those that lost DPP like Doherty did, right? Although he might not have been 105. Anyway, yeah, it's tricky. Like I would maybe have him mid 90s. Could he go 100 plus? I guess so. I mean, one for the watch list, right? This is what this is all about. This is smoky picks. You're not really meant to agree with these. This one I replied to, which is Brandon Zerk Thatcher. That is outside the box. Berserker or Margaret himself. What price? 67 here. 375k. Played 22 games at Essen last year. Obviously got exposed at some points with the matchups, to all the matchups that he was taking at points. Like Hawkins, that game rings to mind. There was another one where he had a fair few kicked on him as well. It's interesting to see what will happen with Port because they've now got Aaliyah, Zerk Thatcher, and Radigalia. And to be honest, I see all three of them being best when they get to play third man up or a little bit loose. But someone's going to have to play accountable in that defense. And I think that may be the thing that stops Zerk Thatcher because I can imagine both Radigalia and Aaliyah, especially Aaliyah is best. We've seen him being able to be third man up. Like I imagine they get dibs on that role over BZT. Will Day not being talked about enough, and I think it'll stay that way. For those that don't know, news broke today that Will Day unfortunately fractured his foot at the first training session back for the Hawks this year and will be touch and go for round 1. But yeah, given that he's going to miss all the preseason now, I feel like that's someone that you can't touch. Hugh McCluggage to become a super premium, and I don't think this one is too bad of a shout. I have a feeling that his numbers without Ashcroft were pretty good to finish off the year. Let's have a quick look at that. So with Ashcroft, 91 SuperCoach without 101. Did we see an uptick in CBAs? Not really. Maybe a touch. I mean, yeah, without him, it was 50. With him, it was 40 across the year. So like a small uptick. He's someone that could improve again, for sure. I think it just depends on role. Does he get to play more inside or not? If he stays on the outside, I think it just, limits your upside. But I don't mind him as on the watch list. Wardlaw, Smokey could do the Clayton Oliver second year jump. I think that is absolutely spot on. It's one we've talked about in the Discord a little bit. Mr. Wardlaw, I really liked what I saw out of him, and he averaged, I think, low he averaged well despite having a number of low time on ground games. And obviously the big concern with him is injury history. He's done, I don't know how many hammies already. So yeah, I mean, he had 60% time on ground and average 65. You've bumped that up to 80. Continues to get more CBAs than what he did because this is pretty low, 47. You get that up into the 60s, you get the time on ground up into mid 70s, 80, and you could see this SuperCoach score, I think, pretty easily going up to 85, 90 range. Would that be enough at his price point? Yeah, probably. I mean, I think it'd be a reasonable stepping stone at this 365k range if you were looking for someone like that. The challenge is that, he's been very injury prone throughout his junior career, throughout his AFL debut season. So you're banking on him having a full preseason, and then I think you can consider him from there. North do have a lot of talent running through that midfield now, so I'd be interested to see how they actually sort out who gets what CBAs as well. Short to be D1 all season. Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to settle him into that role, but we'll see what Uze does. Will he be D1? I don't know about that. Not sure about that, but I don't hate it as a smoky call. Nick Martin. Now, this is particularly interesting after what we saw yesterday out of the Essendon training reports with Nick Martin being used across half back. Some debate over whether this is just them mucking around. We've already seen it in the preseason a little bit with like Davey doing the same thing. Or is it going to be a permanent move? Or is it just like a tactical play or like a situation type training that they're using it for? To be honest, Essendon was poor transitioning out of defensive 50. We were too slow. We couldn't go direct enough at times. So bringing in someone like Nick Martin that could do that, I think makes sense. Replacing someone like a Heppel in the back 50 who wasn't necessarily just isn't as attacking. And Martin can run the wings. He could rotate through. We've got Dersma obviously coming in and Durham on the other wing, so it's not like he's required on the wing despite how good he was back there. And we've got enough inside mids. I know a lot of people want to push him into the inside midfield, given he adds something different, his size and stuff. But across halfback, I think could be useful, play more of an attacking role. So we'll see what happens with that. That is a wait and see, because if he looks like he's going to be a defender for Essendon, yeah, you start him as a 500k mid, but if he's going to get DPP in round 6, a bit like a Carl Amon, who I've got on my side at the moment, then I don't hate that as a little bit of a smoky play at all. So one for the watch list. Ruben Ginby listed out here. So he's 350k, so same price range as a couple of these other midfield smokies we've looked at. He could definitely take the next level, but he's got two things working against him, which is one, he had injury problems as well, and secondly, he's playing in a pretty poor West Coast midfield. So I think that really limits him. Wanganeen Malira to go one better. I mean, I think that could definitely be true as well. Over the back end of the year, his scoring picked up and looked pretty good. Towards the back end of the year, I need to pull up Sinclair's splits at the same time, because really I think it was when Sinclair moved back, Malira also performed a bit better as well through some of these patches here. Bit hard to say, but he finished off the last 10 of the year or whatever it is in pretty good fashion, old Naz. So definitely could be the one that takes the next step. I think the challenge would just be like, is that enough value at 475k, so that 85 range? I guess so. Got a lot of people to go past to be top 6 though. Possible, but I think unlikely. He will be better than last year though. I think he will continue to improve his average. Holmes to increase his average by 15 points per game. Priced at 80. Could he go to 95? Yeah, I mean, I think that seems reasonable. I don't know if it's worth it at that pick. Horn Francis, I mean, he should get better the further he's removed from that injury, improve both time and ground, all that type of stuff. But at this price point, it's too awkward for me. I don't think I'd touch it. Liam Baker gets a full-time mid-roll. There is some speculation that that's where Uze is going to settle him. Baker has been a bit of a Mr. Fix-It for Richmond, which unfortunately hasn't been good for his Supercoach, despite him being one of my favorite Tiger players, just straight out. I love him. But yeah, I think that's going to be tough. James Jordan here. Yeah, so I think he's in my Supercoach side at the moment. He finished second in the Swans time trial post-Christmas, only behind Goulden. I think the hope is that he'd land an inside mid-roll at the Swans. I have a feeling it's going to end up being a wing role. Now, if Goulden's playing the other wing, I worry that it's fat side defensive wing he gets to play, and that'll rule him out for being a pick. But at this price point, he's definitely high on the watch list. Archie Perkins, I think you'd be disappointed there. I don't think he's getting mid-time for the Bombers, which makes him pretty hard to pick at 370k. I know the forward line's bare, but I don't know. I just can't see him getting up, 20 plus points on that this year. Matt Crouch, yep. I mean, already talked about him a little bit in the preseason videos, but he should be on your watch list. Finished off the year very strong. I think he's likely on the Crows' best 22. Nick Blakey, the Lizard, he actually hasn't been talked about a ton this preseason, although he did get talked about at various points towards the end of last year. 90 average. Could he improve on that? I mean, I think if they gave took like some of the kick-in duties away from Lloyd and stuff like that. Yeah, he could improve. I think he's pretty risky at 90. If he was priced a little bit cheaper, it might be more interesting. Like if he's still around the 400k range rather than at 500k. But yeah, McGrath to go 100 plus. Like, no, that's not happening. Especially if Martin's going down back. McCluggage, you already mentioned. Heath Chapman is in the defense line. I think Mini Monk released an episode on him on the coaches panel, 50 most relevant, talking about him. But effectively, with some of the departures the Freya's had, it seems like wing spots have opened up. One should be taken by Sharp, the other one should be taken by Chapman. And Freya wings have traditionally been able to put up some decent scores. So there's a reasonable chance he can return value on this. He is only the 3 games played, so he got a discount in his price. 250k has him priced at around 45 average. But in the 3 games played at 64, I mean, really, we're looking at him to get up around the 80 mark at that price point, which I think he can reasonably do. So I like Chapman as an option for sure. Machito Owens, riding the wave of last year, can he continue to break out? I mean, possibly, but I think it's only going to happen if he gets to move up at the ball more, which I don't see happening. If he does, I'm interested. Mitch Hinge, love a bit of Hinge. Been a big fan of his. Price 85. Can he go higher than that? I don't know. Like I think, like maybe. I'm not even sure what I'd be looking for in the preseason for him to improve. Like kick-ins? Did he not have kick-ins last year? Uh, I mean, he already had a lot of the kick-ins, so what's he taking more from Millera? And what? No, I don't think that's happening. I think they're just going to keep sharing them. So I don't know. I just don't see the path there, but sure, like nothing wrong with that. Philippou. Oh, Sebi. Oh, Sebi, this is a joke. Oh, can't believe I read it out too. Someone's put in Philippou seriously, but yeah, Seb was hyping him up the back end, well, at the start of last year, just before he really fell off a cliff. I do like Philippou, but I don't think he's going to be a breakout this year. But let's do our due diligence. Should we add him to the list? What is he priced at? 290k as a forward. It's cheap. Would he go to 80? He'd have to push up to the midfield. So I guess that's a wait and see. I mean, anyone that's getting more midfield time this year gets instant earn on the watch list, but I haven't heard rumors of that this year. Blake we touched on. Paddy Dow. I mean, yeah, he's going to be, I think, a somewhat popular option. He's also around the 300k price mark. Could help maybe solve some of the clearance problems that the Saints had. So if he's a best 22, I guess, potential option. But he's been a flop for people in the past. Cam Guthrie is one I've talked a little bit about just because he's priced at 420k, but he's had a 110 season before, I want to say. So obviously, if you can get back to that, then at 420k, obviously he's a bargain. I think the problem is I want to say he's in his 30s now, which is typically not the age that we pick, especially if coming off injury. But potential. If someone's looking for a smoky, I can see why they'd be interested in Guthrie. Jeremy Cameron will finish F1. That is bold. I mean, I feel like some of these are hot takes more than smokies or watch list players. So he went 83. I think the big thing with him was when Hawkins was out at the start of the year or underdone. He had a really hot stretch, I want to say. Let's have a look if I can find that. Look at that time on ground, all purple. Oh, he's got a little bit of inbuilt fantasy because he got KO'd. That's right, by Gary Rowan. So if I delete that, he actually had a true average of 87. He's priced at 83. So I want to say Tom Hawkins was a bit underdone to start the year, and you can kind of see he did really well. And then as Hawkins built into it, he dropped off a bit and then got concussed. Then finished the year poorly. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Hawkins is playing on though, right? I mean, if there was no Hawkins, maybe. Dusty. I mean, the people will have a resurgence on Dusty. I don't think it's going to happen. I think he'll continue to be good, but probably just not relevant. He might end up being a top 6, but I wouldn't start with him. Braden Campbell. I mean, I like Campbell. I like his kicking. I like his disposal efficiency. I don't know if he gets a distributor role that bumps him up to the next level, though, but I don't mind him being on a watch list. Connor McDonald, for sure, is on the watch list, especially now with Will Day popping out. He's someone that, as a junior, has had very good numbers as a midfielder, like talking 100 plus. When we've seen him in the midfield, there's been flashes of that as well. I really rate Connor McDonald as a player. If he was to get mid-time, I would be smashing him into my forward line over, someone like a Jordan pretty easily. I might just do it now just because I like having him there. Yeah, there we go. All right, Jordan Clark. For Freo, Watso, with Hayden Young moving out, does he improve on his average? I don't think so. I think Chapman will take that stuff, but I can see why you'd have an eye on him just in case. Newcomb, maybe people will get on Newcomb with Day out. I know he's a name that I've seen a lot, and he's one that, obviously a lot of people have discounted. Basically every year that he's been in the competition, he's been underrated and kind of outperformed. Will he continue to do that? Keen to see. Both his games without Will Day were actually very good. One thing to note with Newcomb is that his wins, he was like a 116 average in wins, 90 average in losses. So there's a pretty big difference in those. And if you think Hawthorn's going to improve, get more wins, and maybe he just naturally improves off the back of that. These scores without Will Day were obviously good as well. So if Will Day struggles with his recovery and maybe he's going to miss a bit of time, you could consider starting him too. I don't know if he's enough to get close enough to the top 10 mids that I would pick him. What did he do? 98? You probably need to get a 10-point average upside on that. So you need to get him to like a 108, I think, to make that worthwhile. Would be my gut feel. Crazy things have happened. All right, where were we at with the tweets? Chapman, we already talked about like that. Connor McDonald, my boys. Yeah, for sure. Tanner Brun, Sam. That failed pick from last year. Let's leave him there. Smokey Dill Stevens. Yes. So I've said this a number of times in Discord that this is I think one of the most underrated pickups in the off season. I really like Dill Stevens. I don't know why the Swans didn't want to play him. I think he offers a lot. I think he'll outperform his price. If he was a forward or a defender, I'd be interested. As a mid, probably not. But yeah, North midfield should be good, and I like Dill Stevens. All right, Matty Flynn. I think it's just going to be hard given the other ruck value, given he's priced up in the high 80s. But one to watch. I think the risk is that they play BJ Williams as a second there, and it cuts into his upside. Smokey is Shelley. I know a lot of people have talked about him. He's entering that third year. They toyed around with him being a midfielder at the start of last year. He scored better in that role, but they moved away from that and then ended up with Crouch in the midfield mix. I have a feeling with Crouch continuing in the midfield and that really being the only spot he can play, that will limit the midfield time for a Rochelle or a Rankin, which prevents him from going to keeper status this year. I think he probably improves on his average. I wouldn't be surprised by that, but we'd have to see significant CBAs for him to be a pick, and I'm just not sure that's going to be there. Smokey is Neil Bullen. I guess this is just another one of the which D gets more mid-time and improves on the back of that. I don't know if I rate Neil Bullen enough for him to be the pick of the bunch, but sure. Thanks for the shout, Fanta. Riley Sanders. Everyone's going to have Riley Sanders. So calling him Smokey is a little bit sus, but sure. Billings, his best seasons have been well above where he's priced at the moment, into the high 80s, low 90s. And to be honest, if you got like a 85 out of him at this price, I think that'll end up being a F6 for most of the year and a luxury upgrade later. So yeah, Billings should be good. Campbell we talked about. Josh Goda, yeah, so he is one of the North defenders. It seems like in preseason that's getting some of that halfback role. I don't think he'll end up getting it. To me, it still sounds like McKercher, Fisher, and maybe even Bergman are the ones that get that. Wait, am I thinking of the right player? Yeah, Miller, Bergman, yeah. So I think it's those three that are probably still ahead of Goda based on what we saw last year, but keep an eye on him. Horn Francis and Shorty, we've mentioned. Coleman, I think unfortunately is going to get hurt by the buy a little bit, playing an early buy. Seems like someone you can just pass on and upgrade to if you need to later. But presents value at 400k if he can kind of continue on that finals form. Josh Ward, yeah, one for the watch list for sure. There's a lot of people expecting him to break out. He's also someone that's entering that third year and could get more midfield time at the Hawks. Don't mind that as a smoky. Precise Trezise. I know he's been talked about a little bit as an option. Is he a forward? Is he a defender? Can I spell his name? 200k, reasonable. 93 from his one game. Oh, amazing. I think the only challenge for old Trezise is we're going to have, if he's best 22 and all that, is we've got a lot of good options in defense this year. Like I've got more rookies and mid prices on the field than most. I think a lot of people are running probably a third premium or whatever it may be. So I've got Reed, Pink, Caulfield, Gibkiss, Williams, Chapman, all cheap. Trezise goes in the mix. Cox goes into the mix. There's another, Marty Hall from Melbourne. So I think the struggle is there's just so many other good picks, but I don't mind him as a watch list. Nick Newman to go big. I don't know about that. He already went pretty big at the back end of last year. If he carried that form forward, there'd be some value, but I think players like Zach Williams will eat into that. That change happened when Doherty moved into the midfield, right? I think they stick with that. Yeah, maybe. I mean, Williams has made a paper. Finn Callahan, I expect Finn to improve, but not enough to make him a worthwhile pick given he's already in the 400s. Angus Brayshaw, they could move him back to the midfield. It maybe puts him at 10 points of upside. I think he could reasonably go to 100 average. But how much of the year is Oliver going to miss? I think that's all the problem I have with all these keeper picks on Oliver. Wilmot. That's not a name that I've heard. What do they call him? The Pepsi Max King? I think I've seen DR on Twitter refer to him as the Pepsi Max guy. So I think he just likes Pepsi Max. I don't know. I'm out of the Lions meme sphere. So he would have to take over rather than be Coleman. I mean, he could preseason watch that. Pedlar, yes. He's actually someone that's talked about, I think, playing more midfield. And to be honest, I thought he did a good job when going in there, maybe more so than Richelieu Rankin earlier in the year. So I could see Pedlar going bigger, but I think he's just going to end up playing too much time forward. Ginby and Ward we've talked about. Malira we've talked about. Weddle. So I think the problem with Weddle here, 300 and his price is 67, is I expect him to improve. I imagine he's going to look good again. I really liked what I saw out of Weddle. But he's going to play more up on a wing, would be my guess. And I don't know if the scoring's there to warrant him being a pick. What some of these last games were maybe more put on wing. Showed potential. Obviously, Tunning in your first 4 games is big. Another 90 there. He was very good for us last year. I liked Weddle a lot. 67 for a rookie to start is good. Reasonably, what he goes 75, 80. I don't think he's picked, but sure. He's one that I'll have tabs on. I actually have a feeling he might be the year after. Bailey Humphrey. Nah, I don't think he's going to play enough mid-time. Let's check what he's priced at. Old Humper. 60. I mean, he's a forward. So whenever we look at forwards, I think the bar for what warrants him being put on the watch list goes down a lot. D'Ambrosio, the former Bomber himself. Does he carve out a role at North? He's price cheap. This is another one in the defender list. Could be value if he's best 22, gets to play an attacking role. We'll see what happens there. Cam McKenzie. Okay. Where did I spell his name wrong? Why can I not find Cam McKenzie? 'Cause 'Cam McKenzie. 'Cause 'Cam 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 ' His price is a forward. Okay. Yeah, so if he gets midfield time, I'd be considering him 270k for sure. Elijah Hewitt, yeah, I think this is another one where if he gets bog midfield time, sure, but I have a feeling he's having an interrupted preseason, so keep an eye on him. Fiorini, no, I think he's going to fall out of favor. Just my gut feel. They've got enough other mids. I don't think he does enough to keep his spot. Rivers, yeah, this is what I was talking about. 85. Could see more midfield time. Did he improve over the back end of the year? Because I seem to remember him being really big in like the last month or two. Yeah, you can see here, like this little bit of stretch here, post buy was quite good. Last 5 was quite good, up at that 90 average. So I can get some kick-ins here. Yeah, keep an eye on Rivers. I like him. I like what I saw out of him. Dillmore, oh my god, I would love Dillmore to be relevant. He is with Connor McDonald, one of my favorite Hawks. I absolutely love Dillmore. 91 average, playing a half forward role. If he gets midfield time at all, he would easily be a 100+ player. He's just one of those guys where he's so good forward of the ball, and that's where they need help. I just can't see him not playing there. But yeah, I love Dillmore. Flanders, of course. Binns, yeah, there's some talk about him improving in Carlton's squad and being a potential rookie. I think, yeah, he's in my squad there at 124k. But Windhager to go 105 plus. He finished off the year well. I don't think he's got the skills to actually be 105 plus. I don't think he's efficient enough. But I do think he'll outperform what he's priced at pretty heavily and could be another kind of defender mid-pricer option for sure. Dow and Jordan we've covered. Wardlaw we've covered. Simpkin is one that is super cheap and probably one that's more a fantasy option than a SuperCoach option. I think he's relatively cheaper in that format. 440k. So once again, one of these cheaper kind of discounted premium mids. I think he could reasonably get back to close to 100. From what I've read in the preseason report so far, his running's back to where it should be. Very fit. He's been hampered by injuries basically for the last 2 years. There was also some talk that he might move or do some halfback rotations as well, depending on what structure they land on. So keep an eye. I mean, maybe this is just what North does now. They take their captains, once they're a little bit washed, move them into halfback, get some cheap ball, and if he does, yeah, all over Simpkin. Once again, like Amon, like who do we put out? Oh, Nick Martin, all these midfielders turning defenders. Pick them up now and then have them in round 6. Mitch Georgiadis. He's priced at 240k. So he'd need to be best 22 ahead of some of Port's other guys. Yep, keep an eye on that. Tom Lynch. I'm guessing you're not talking about the former Crow. So 290k. Yeah, I mean, he could go 80s reasonably. No Rewalt on the side anymore. He's the number 1 target with Samson Ryan just backing him up. They must have another forward option that I can't remember at the moment. So the challenge with Tom Lynch was he still wasn't in full running at the end of last year. He was assisted in one of those machines that take weight off. I think he'd be touch and go to be ready for round 1. Given what the forward line looks like, I can see why people would get interested in him. Proven player. Do the Tigers go backwards? What type of delivery is he getting? Is he going to be getting too much attention? All that type of stuff. Humper, we've covered. Ridley. Yeah, so I think the discussion with Ridley is that with Ben Mackay coming into the side, frees Ridley up to do some of his great intercept defending work again, maybe play a little bit looser, a little bit more attacking, be that third man rather than having to play as accountable as he did last year. Yeah, it's just every year it feels like we get sucked into Ridley because the upside is there. If everything fell into place and he got to play like a Sicily role, I think he could score like a Sicily. He could go 105 plus, 110 plus. And we've seen it in stretches in his career. Will that happen next year? Doubt, but we'll see. Yeah, Raul, Hinge, Rivers, all good ones. Mitch Owens, Bruin, we've already talked about all of them. Rochelle, Wardlaw, Lynch, Brayshaw. Cherry is a player of interest. He's a big player of interest, of course, in my ruck line at the moment. When he's been solo ruck, he's shown pretty easily in the past that he can go high 80s. I think he can actually go better than that again, and we could see him in this like, mid 90s to 100 range, which at his price makes him pretty good value. Priced in low 70s. So I think he could pretty reasonably add 20, 25 points on that. Amon, yep, in my side as well. Some good picks here. So once again, back end of last year, finished well as a defender, had like a mid, somewhere like a 105-ish average in the games he played halfback to finish off the year, and was good in that role. Coached by Cade Simpson in the back line, who was like one of the original plus ones in defense for fantasy. For those who've been playing, 10 plus years or whatever, they'll know all about Cade Simpson. For those played more recently would know about him too. But being trained by that, feel like that's a good sign. I think it hurts some of the upside of Sicily, and so it's a watch for a couple of reasons. But yeah, for him, it's picked as someone that I'd have to be confident he's going to be playing defense the first 6 rounds. Then I get to move him back into the defense line come round 6. Brady Hoff, a popular man. 350k, did some good things. I mean, I'm pretty out on West Coast players. I don't see enough improvement quick enough that these guys are going to get big bumps from team improvement. And I think that's somewhat required for some of these younger guys. You have to be in a competitive team to see really big bumps. Or you have to be an extraordinary talent. I'm not sure I really see either with Hoff, but I do think he improves on this average. And I think maybe if you're a draft player, the list of players that we've had has actually been really good because while I don't think everyone will necessarily be relevant in the classic format, I feel like almost all of them will be worthwhile moving up your draft boards because they should outperform where they're priced out or where they are in the list. Wines, I mean, I'm not going to be touching him. The former Brownlow medalist, even in his Brownlow year, he wasn't exactly a premium mid. So I think happy to avoid that. But he's one that's struggled with injuries, and if he gets a better role, sure, yeah, I could see it. But I almost feel like you'd need like a Butters or a Rosie to go down for him to really be able to take over that midfield again. DeGoey, I'm not going to go there, but he had a great year last year, 97. Would have to play better than that again. Which, given that they are the premiers and premiers regress, I find that unlikely. Zach Reid from the Bromers, yeah, I mean, he looks like, as of right now, he could be best 22, maybe overtaking a Laverty or even playing beside him. He's a 200-plus tall that's been injury-prone, but at this basement price, he's just as good as, these Gibkiss, Pink picks that are all key defenders that should score all right in SuperCoach from, basically very cheap prices. Cully is unfortunately injured. Otherwise, he would be interesting at 193k. And then Heaney, I mean, if you want to jump on that roller coaster, by all means, go for it. Probably, I don't even know what I'd be watching for. He hasn't looked good as a mid when he's been in this. I don't really want him going in there. So what would I be watching in the preseason for to pick him? I don't think there is anything that could be reasonable. I'd have to see something in round 0 I haven't seen before to believe that Heaney is someone that I should be picking. All right. So that is all of the preseason watch list smokies that people called out. And I think it was a really good list of players. It was fun to kind of go through them and think about them. There's some that I need to definitely do more research on. But yeah, if you're looking for some players to look at in the preseason, then I think this is a great place to start. Thank you for everyone that participated. If you don't follow me on Twitter, it's at Jackson Davey. So yeah, follow me for, preseason content, competitions like that, a bit of banter and all that. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. I will see you in the next one. Peace.